Greetings and salutations, knowledge seekers, and welcome to this video. Today, I want to help you to become a bit less emotionally reactive. And with this one simple method, I guarantee you that you would be able to decrease your emotional reactivity by at least 50%. The good news is that this method does not require you to exhibit particularly high amount of discipline or to change your overall mindset. The one thing that you need to do is to be completely honest with yourself. Let's get into it. So I think all of us end up in situations where we are more emotionally affected by the circumstances around us that we would like. We sometimes tend to overreact, to blow things out of proportion, and it would be very beneficial. It would behoove us quite a lot if we are able to control ourselves in these particular instances. One example of such situations is when we start using words like always and never. That's also known as verbalization. So once you start using these type of words, those are trigger words that mean that your emotions are about to run amok. And let's look at some practical examples, right? Let's say that you are a person that likes to help out in the home and that you are usually the one that loads the dishwasher and then empties it once it's ready. But one particular evening you are frustrated because of the way your day went, or something that happened at work, or something that happened on your way home. And so you turn to your partner and you say, "You never help me out at home." Or maybe you have a teenager and he or she is particularly non-communicative during a period of time. So you call your best friend and you start complaining that your boy or girl never talks to you anymore and never pays any attention to what you're saying. Or maybe your boss is not clear with his or her communication about a particular assignment. They don't notify you of when the assignment is supposed to be delivered and what the expectations for this assignment is. So you go home and you start complaining to your significant other that your boss is completely incompetent and that she doesn't know what she's doing. The reason for doing all this is pretty clear. That makes us feel a lot better, right? Then we kind of become the victim in the situation, and the emotional triggers that affect us are no longer our fault, but we completely shift the responsibility to somebody else. Well, unfortunately, this is not particularly productive from a emotion processing point of view. You are not able to actually come to the root cause of your annoyance. So there are much better ways of handling those situations than verbalizing and pretending like this awful situation is the norm rather than perhaps the exception. So what can we do in these kind of instances once we start feeling that our emotions are taking over us and are starting to get the best out of us, right? One thing that we can do is take a deep breath. Even though this is very simple, it actually is proven scientifically that it has a very calming effect on our mind and body. And it allows us to get a little bit more centered and a little bit more grounded in the situation, which would then allow us to start engaging in a little bit more complicated cognitive processes and not just focusing solely on analyzing the situation from an emotional point of view. A second very important thing is to bring a little bit more context to the situation, right? So is this really something that always happens or that never happens? Or is this a situation that in this particular instance just annoyed us, even though it's not necessarily the norm, right? So do you really not get any help at home whatsoever? Or is it just that you are a little bit triggered in the moment and you are overreacting to the situation? Or is it factual that your boss is completely incompetent just because he or she didn't communicate clearly what the expectations of a particular assignment were? Or is it maybe that they have been overwhelmed and they've had too much to do, and they have not been able to devote enough time to help you with this particular situation, right? Perhaps they are a very good boss, and it's just this is more the exception rather than the norm. But again, horribalizing allows us to feel better about ourselves and to detach ourselves from the situation and to not find any blame in ourselves in the current circumstance, which makes us feel better, right? So that's why the third step must come in. You really need to be honest with yourself in assessing your circumstances, and perhaps realize that you are overreacting to the situation. Perhaps this is not as bad as it currently feels. There are shades of gray, and not everything is black and white in life, right? And what you can do is you can actively think of situations that disprove your current mood, your current feelings. So, were there situations in which your significant other or partner was actually helpful at home, right? Where was there a situation in which your boss was actually very helpful and was nurturing and showed great amount of leadership, or was able to communicate very clearly with you around specific work assignment and communicate very clear expectations? Or were there also instances where your teenage child was feeling vulnerable and expressed emotions openly and clearly to you, right? Another thing that you can possibly do in those situations is you can actually express your feelings. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel disappointed. It's okay to feel, unappreciated by your boss. These are all natural feelings, but they also center on you, right? So it's good if you express those in a clear way. I feel angry or disappointed or betrayed or whatever. And not to in any way put the responsibility on somebody else. Like, instead of saying you make me feel so angry, to actually say I feel angry because of, and then you can actually address the current situation, right? It's much more productive and much better to say it makes me very angry when you don't help me at home, or to go to your boss and say, I'm sorry, I feel like I was not put in a position to succeed. I don't feel like you were able to help me enough with completing this assignment. And then have a conversation with the person and openly and honestly express how you feel, without blaming them, without putting the onus of the entire situation on them, because there's always two sides to the story, right? There's always two different perspectives that need to at least be acknowledged and understood before we can make a snap and final judgment about a particular situation. And by doing these things, but mostly focusing on being honest with yourself and fully understanding why you are reacting the way you are reacting, why you are, again, horribalizing and you are blowing things out of proportion, you can come up to a much more constructive and productive solution for both parties. And you can also be a little bit less emotional and spare some of those precious nerves that you can and emotional energy that you can use in much more productive ways throughout your day. That'll be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you like this content. If you do, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.